Hey, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Orange Bloods Texas Football YouTube channel. I'm Ari Temkin. That's GK, Geoff Ketchum. And this is some transfer portal talk here on the Orange Bloods Texas Football YouTube channel. And we're going to get into a couple of things. Number one, what Sark said that gave us some clues as to where else Texas could be looking in the portal. But first, thumbs up if you like the video. If you like what you're watching and you like what you're seeing, give the video a thumbs up. You can boop the like button if you'd like, or you could just press it, whatever floats your boat. Also, consider hitting subscribe. It's right there down below the video. It's easily press it, click the notifications. That way you're always in the know when we do live streams and whatnot.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Okay, so let's start with,
Okay.
this is transfer portal talk. So let's start with what Sark said during last week's sort of signing day wrap press conference. Catch, what did he say?
Well, I thought it really stood out that he was so open about, he's there saying, I'm here on signing day and this is who we have. But philosophically speaking, if we get to a point in the next few months where there's an inside linebacker that we think improves our team, we're going to get one of those. If we find a safety that we think can come in and be an immediate impact player and improve us in the secondary, we'll shop for one of those. And I found it interesting that he said, look, the right wide receiver comes along, we'll take one of them too, in theory. And he had mentioned, back on the original first signing day that they might take up to 35 or 36 players. They're at 32. So I just think we're in a situation where he's laid out the blueprint for where all of our conversations should be over the course of the next few months as they get closer to August and are looking to firm up this roster going into next season. He's told us where their needs are. Now, does that mean that if the right offensive lineman or defensive lineman or pass rusher, right? Because noticeably absent from his remarks were pass rusher, and we know that O'Shawn Mathis is a guy that the Longhorns would have a lot of interest in. It doesn't mean that they won't take somebody else at a different position, but I thought he absolutely highlighted
Prioritized.
They feel like they need the most, and it was an announcement. And when the next good safety hits the portal, when there's the big rush, I think after spring football, I think they'll use those comments and say, look, how bad do we need you? Even back in, the first week of February, Sark, our head coach, or in this case of Sark, is talking directly to a guy. I can say, I mentioned specifically, we're looking for you. So when you're trying to sell playing time and you don't want to tell a guy you're going to absolutely start, there's no competition, but you want to highlight the fact that, look, we need you so bad. I've been talking about you for 4 months. And those are parts of the little narratives that shape these kids in the portal make their decisions so quickly. Like, it gets done in a week in a lot of cases. They're not all O'Shawn Mathis who have the entire semester to figure out what they want to do. A lot of these guys are going to be doing it on the fly. They want to be someplace on June 1st and shaping, I think, a narrative for Texas that we need these guys. I think works for them, but it works for us because we know anytime a guy that can play inside linebacker that's good is in the portal, start ringing the bell and doing videos about them.
So it's interesting from a couple of standpoints. Number one, when Sark says these things, like, they're looking for an inside linebacker. This is not like if we find somebody that kind of fits, they're looking. Here's the thing. It is a buyer. What's that?
They've offered a bunch of it. They would have this position locked up if they had already hit on about 3 or 4 guys that have already been in the portal. Remember, they wanted UNLV's Jacoby Windman, and they weren't able to get through his visit to Michigan State. But so they offered a kid from Central Michigan, and he wanted to play in the SEC. They've been like the inside linebacker one. I think it was like, had he not said that, we'd be like, oh, he wasn't telling the truth, because we know they want an inside linebacker. They've
Also,
been
we
telling us
saw the
that.
team last year, so we could tell that they needed an inside linebacker.
Then there's that. Yes. No, it's a massive hole. So, I think he's pretty upfront about that, but like it matched. Sometimes coaches are never honest. I thought that was like a moment of honesty where like, he acknowledges the elephant in the room, which is we're trying.
But it is a buyer's market. This is what I think is so interesting is there's no salary cap. So people always liken this to free agency only. There's no salary cap. And here's the reality of the situation. The portal over the next few years is going to sort of figure itself out. But at this point, of the players that have entered the portal at the D1 level, 50% of them have found a new home and 50% haven't.
Yeah.
So the
numbers are slightly higher in the Power 5 conferences. So 70% of SEC guys are finding homes, and I think 60%-ish in the Big 12. So it's a little higher if you're shopping at, Neiman Marcus, I guess, in the portal shop as opposed
But would you rather have like a hungry, group of 5 Central Michigan kid, or a kid that, I don't want to liken everybody to Ben Davis, or would you want a kid that kind of couldn't cut it at the SEC level? Not to say all of the kids that leave the SEC are doing that. There's a bunch of different reasons for it, but I wonder what the preference is. Ultimately, I do think that there will be better math out there for kids to have access to that will shrink the portal over the next few years. I think we'll have a market correction on it, but for the time being, I mean, you can continue, like you miss out on one kid at one position. It's just back to the drawing board to figure out who the next guy is with Gary Patterson in tow to kind of do what you wanted him to do to a certain degree in scouting and development. They'll find an inside linebacker. This is one of those things where it's like, if you're looking for a position, you can find a player that's going to come and play for you. It might not be the first choice you have or the second choice you have, but if you're looking to infuse more competition at certain positions, you can find those kids, because there's a ton of kids in the portal. They're going to be left in the cold without a place to go at the D1 level. And these are D1 kids that enter the portal hoping to get another D1 offer that are end up going FCS or D2 or D3.
I think we know a couple of things about this conversation, clues. We know that Steve Sarkisian likes transfers from big time programs.
Yep.
He loves it when they come from Alabama. He loves it when they come from Notre Dame, Ovia Gofu a year ago, Ray Thornton from LSU. Big time programs, SEC programs, like I want to say 80% of his transfers fit that profile.
Yeah.
He showed us, however, in their offers so far that if a guy's good, so they go after Jacoby Windman at UNLV, and he doesn't quite fit the profile of what you would think they would want, except he's a legitimate non-Power 5 badass. You look at the guy from Louisiana, Lorenzo McCaskill, who they would have played against last year. He's going to visit at some point, so he thinks. I think both parties probably said, we're going to be interested in each other. He started at middle linebacker last season for Louisiana. So he fits that profile of guy that look, they need somebody on 2nd and 5 who's not falling down and missing lanes and letting barn doors open up into the secondary.
Right. It's exactly right.
So they need
somebody to fill running lanes.
They don't need a first or second round guy. They don't need a first or second day guy in the NFL to be the answer. If somebody's just not lost and can do the basics really well, even if they're just a really good college player, but maybe not more beyond that, right? Because a guy like Lorenzo McCaskill is transferring because he's not going to the NFL, and they want to boost profile and they want to do it at a big school. Most guys that do that end up being guys that had ceilings, and you go,
right.
Oh,
right.
That's why that guy didn't go pro. But they are starting at a place where their upgrade is pretty significant. If they could just be pretty good, that would be really good for Texas. So I think they're letting us know everybody can apply. If a guy emerges from a power, a guy who was second team at Alabama, they would have taken Drew Sanders wasn't super proven. He's not one of these all-conference guys, but he was a guy at Alabama from a profile standpoint that they would have died for. So the tiebreaker, if it ever can be one, is one of these guys, these Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State guys. But
the guys that just got passed over for more talent, basically.
They got to improve somehow. So they can't be super picky and then end up with nothing.
Wide receiver is so interesting to me because so you get Nair, you get Billingsley. So what kind of, you now have two speed guys that could beat you down the field in Worthy and Nair. So what are you looking for from a skill set standpoint in terms of the receiver position now to kind of fill it out? Possession guy?
Probably best player available. So, when you look at them, you figure Nair and Mr. Worthy are your two outside receivers. And you figure that Jordan Whittington and Brenen Thompson coming in, right. They want to play. Brenen Thompson, I mentioned this on a video on signing day in one of the million videos that we did, which if you haven't seen any of our signing day coverage, like just mosey on over to the videos section of our page.
Or just click the link right here showing up right now.
Yes, if he says it's above us, it's above us. And, one of the things that I mentioned that day was that I'm slightly forgetting what was the point that I was going to make because now I've been distracted.
About Brenen Thompson.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about, of all the guys that are in this class, he has maybe the single most special one skill of everybody. Maybe if you were talking about Cam Williams and you'd go size because that dude's a mountain. But like his speed, his speed puts Evan Stewart's speed to shame. So you're legitimately talking about a 10-3 kind of guy in the 100 meters. That's the kind of thing that when I hear that, Marquise Goodwin type speed.
Right.
And so they're going to want to get that guy on the field. Now he's coming from Spearman. Who the hell knows if he's remotely ready to make such a massive leap up in competition. It is one of the things that you worry about with him, that it's a huge jump. Nobody from Spearman has ever made it at the university. I've never heard of anybody in my life from Spearman who ever did anything in college football. So he's being asked to do something that's never been done before. But they're going to want to get him on the field because he's Alexander Wright of Dallas Cowboys. That's a dated reference, right? We got to go back 30 years, but sometimes a guy is just so fast that it's such a different kind of speed than most mortals that they're going to want to see what that looks like. And I think he and Jordan Whittington are sharing the slot. So I don't think, but once you get beyond that, they don't have a lot of proven guys.
Right.
So I think they're just saying, hey, if somebody that's better than everybody else we have, because they have 9 guys on scholarship for the spring, and not all of them are completely healthy. And then they add 2 freshmen in the fall, so they'll be at 11. So a year ago, they were at 15, 16, and then they moved Brandon Schooler back to defense, and they thinned it out a little bit. It's probably a little thinner than they'd like. You'd probably like to be at 12 or 13. So from a numbers standpoint, I think they could totally justify either taking someone who's an older guy that just makes that unit better, or if they see somebody and they go, yeah, that guy's better than the other 6 guys we have. I think they feel like, and he's got 3 years left. We can use him. And so I think one of the reasons why Sarkisian probably said it wasn't imperative is because they'll be fine, I think, if they don't. For instance, if that scholarship goes to O'Shawn Mathis, and I think what he was telling us is we'll leave the door open if a wide receiver guy that comes in is really interesting to us, but we're not it's not urgent like these other situations are. So that's how I kind of perceived it, is if the right guy comes in and you're like, well, it doesn't matter where he fits in, he's so good, he'll fit in. That's the kind of guy I think they'll be interested in. If that guy pops into the portal and is interested in Texas.